I'm going to call this moderator's pre-town meeting conference to order. Just some preliminary comments about town meeting. This is a one night only town meeting. So we get what we get done within the hours that we have between 5 o'clock and when we adjourn on Tuesday the 17th. I am going to allow the usual non-voters to speak. That means anyone employed by or working for the town council, any employees who have not yet had an opportunity to become registered voters. I think we have a couple of those. The representative of the ACN TV, is that what it's called?
NCTV.
Advisory Committee of Non-Voting
Taxpayers.
Oh, ACNBT.
Yes, and I've been told that that will be the vice chair. Anyone else? I'm going to put in a motion for the meeting to consider. And depending upon how many there are, I'll probably do it as one motion, but I may break
Did you
it up.
see the email that Laura sent out yesterday? It was John Giorgio, Paul Murphy, Sue Carmel, your assistant Jen, Kathy Baird, Peter Kahn. There was a question about Paul Durensis.
Paul Durensis, if he is in attendance, he'll be part of that second motion. Also, Ms. Baird wants to speak. She's a non-voter, but she was a member of the short-term rental work group. And I don't know of any other non-voters who are planning to speak. But the people on that list, with the exception of Paul Durensis, are all fine. Right, because they work for or otherwise employed by the town. I am not aware of any technical amendments on any of the 17 articles, so we'll be dealing with them as printed in the warrant. Just starting to go down that list now. I'll just go through them 1 through 17. I'm not aware of any issues on Article 1. That does have a positive motion from the planning board supported by the finance committee, requires a 2/3 vote. That will be our first order of business, barring any unforeseen motions to the contrary. 2 is Charity Benz's article. It had a take no action recommendation from the planning board. It does require a 2/3 vote. Ms. Benz has provided me with a positive motion. Town council and I have looked at it. That motion is within the scope of the article.
And they're supposed to bring handouts of those positive motions. So
If they can, it would be ideal. And Nancy Holmes, if you're here, or Laura, who should I be getting these motions to for projection?
Sarah, that's going to be Jeremy White, who we invited to this meeting. I haven't looked yet of everybody who's on here. Jeremy might even be here.
he is.
Okay. Yeah, Jeremy is going to be doing that for us.
Okay, so I think maybe Jeremy, you and I should have a conversation offline just to kind of run through what we have.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure I have your email in one of these chains, so I can start sending you these documents.
Yeah, I think you do.
Okay. Article 3 is something put forward by Stephen Cohen. It has a take no action recommendation from the planning board supported by the finance committee. It requires a 2/3 vote, and I have heard nothing about it. Article 4. And if anyone has anything to say about any of these articles, raise your hand and let me know. Okay, Article 4 is also a vacation rental article put forth by Grant Sanders. It has a take no action recommendation from the planning board, supported by the finance committee. It requires a 2/3 vote. And I have a positive motion that both town council and I have looked at and find within the scope. So I'll be providing that to you, Jeremy.
Sarah, Charity has her hand up.
Okay. Can you let her speak?
Yes, here we go. I just wanted to ask and say, we will be providing copies for everybody going of our positive motion for everyone going into the venues, but I understand that there is a possibility that there's going to be a satellite location in another one of the school auditoriums. So how many of these, how many copies do you think are necessary to have printed?
Oh, that's a good question. Nancy, what venues do we have set up for this?
So Charity, we're going to have, as we have had the last few times, we're going to have the high school the high school gym, excuse me, the MWA, of course, and we're going to have the CPS gym. So because we had over 1,600 in May, we're planning seating for 1,800 approximately, just in case. So I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but that's what we're planning seating for.
Okay, so 2,000 would be more than enough.
I would hope so.
Would it ever make sense if people emailed town administration their positive motions so that we could put them on this town meeting page as a reference?
Sure.
I don't, maybe, but
We get into that.
can I just make a comment about that? It's so temporary.
I know, I was just thinking it would be an easy way for people to grab it.
So everyone gets to be able to review it prior to the meeting. So-
If
so
we
that
have
may
it prior to the meeting.
help. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I have grants, I have charities, so I could provide those, or they could provide them directly.
We'll have to figure that out, Erica, who's gonna post it, how it's gonna get on there. It's another layer of complication, but it's also another layer of transparency, so it might be a good idea. We'll have to have a qualifier on there that this changes at the drop of a hat.
Right. Okay. Article 5 is also, now we're out of zoning it to bylaw, general bylaw amendment relating to vacation rentals. Sponsored by Pam Karen. It has a take no action recommendation from the finance committee.
Sarah,
I have a,
Pam is
yeah.
done. I know you and John were, had a comment for her, or maybe it's a sidebar comment.
No, I was going to mention it right now. That I do have a positive motion from Pam Perrin, but I haven't had a chance to review it. John has asked that I ask the sponsor to provide it in a red line format. It is hard to review when we can't see exactly what's changing. So I will do that. When I have it, I'll circulate it. And I don't think she's on here. So, okay. Article 6 is a general bylaw amendment proposed by Stephen Cohen, has a take no action recommendation from the finance committee, and I haven't heard anything on it. Article 7 is also a general bylaw relating to vacation rentals, sponsored by Matt Peel. It also has a take no action recommendation, and I don't have any motions on that yet. And I just want to mention that on Articles 3, 6, and 7, if people intend to go forward, I will need a positive motion, and I'll need it before the meeting if at all possible, because I'm not going to be able to just necessarily project stuff on the fly. Article 8 is a demolition delay bylaw proposed by Ms. Bergman. It has a positive motion from the planning board. Article 9 is a zoning amendment regarding apartment communities, sponsored by Mr. Cohen, has a take no action recommendation. The planning board did determine that if it were to go forward, it would require a majority vote. 10 is a zoning map change for 1 beach grass. There's a positive motion from the planning board, and the planning board has determined that that requires a majority vote under the, I forget what that act is called, but anyway. 11 is also a zoning map change, LUG 2 to R5, proposed by Mr. Maury. Planning board motion is not to adopt. They have determined that if it goes forward, it would require a majority vote. Stephen, I know you're on here. If you intend to go forward with any of your, I think 4 articles, 11, 12, 13, and 14, I would need a positive motion from you on those.
You bet. They
12.
will be forthcoming.
Okay. 12 is a zoning map change proposed by Mr. Maury. Planning board motion not to adopt also would require a majority vote. 13 is a general bylaw amendment proposed by Mr. Maury. The Finance Committee's recommendation was not to adopt. Because of the action taken in July by the Select Board, this would require a 2/3 vote. 14 is also a general bylaw amendment proposed by Mr. Maury. Finance Committee motion was not to adopt. That will also require a 2/3 vote. 15 is a home rule petition sewer map change for 42 Monahanset, proposed by Blas, I think it is. Finance Committee was not to adopt. It would require a 2/3 vote, and I do not have a positive motion on that. And I'm not going to be preparing positive motions on any of these articles. So if anyone proposes to go forward with any of these articles, they have to provide me with a motion in advance. 16 is the home rule petition to change the MP and EDC proposed by Ms. Rayport. Finance Committee recommendation was not to adopt. And I do have a positive motion from Ms. Rayport, which is essentially just to adopt Article 16 as printed in the warrant. Now, I do have a question about that. I know that motion is perfectly fine. But do you think it's helpful to have the text of the article on the screen, of the motion essentially on the screen at the time that we take this up? Or can people reference it in their printed warrants that they're holding in their hands? Just a question. I want to make it easy for people. So the hard part with having a motion like that is that if someone makes an amendment, we won't necessarily have it on the screen. So I'm almost thinking that I should somehow convert 16 into a motion that could be projected.
Madam Moderator, I'm happy to send that to you.
If you could, Hillary, that would be terrific. I'm just thinking about, logistics.
Yeah.
What is that? Are we being air bombed? Okay, that would be helpful, I think. And you can just take the warrant if you have it in Word. I could probably pick out the pages and send them to you.
I have
And
it.
just put the thing at the beginning, moved. You know how to do it. Okay, and then finally, Article 17.
Sarah,
Yes,
a question on 16.
yes.
Are we voting only on the changes, or is the entire motion back up on the floor? This would affect the discussion.
It's the entire motion is up for discussion.
Okay,
Yep, the entire motion is up for discussion.
Madam Moderator, I have another
Yes.
question. I'm not sure if this is the
Certainly.
time to ask this question, but so this will be the third time this is on the warrant. And so my question is pertaining to the order of the warrant and whether or not it's in the benefit of the community or something that should be considered by the moderator, or even could be considered by the moderator to take it out of order. And I can explain why, but I don't even know if that's up to you or if that has to be offered in a motion on the floor.
Well, this is the right time to ask that, and I appreciate you raising it now. So I could, of my own initiative, if I felt it was compelling, change the order of the articles, but I'm not inclined to do that because I think that's a decision that the meeting should make. So that means that someone would have to make a motion to take it out of order. And I would need to hear the reasons why it was being taken out of order as to whether or not I would require a simple majority vote or a 2/3 vote.
Okay. Well, the reason, do you want to hear the reasons now?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So the reasons to take it out of order are that, the purpose of bringing this back is to really hear from, to explain it again to the electorate and to really hear from them what their will is and what they have to say about it. It's currently a bill at the State House. So unlike the other items on the warrant, most of the other items on the warrant, this is not, as you know, something that Nantucket can effectuate on its own. It's a request of the legislature. And the legislature is looking to the voters of Nantucket to hear what they think and how deep the interest in taking action on this is. So I think the number of people present does matter. I'll also say that this is the third time it's come to the meeting, and because of the way we approach things, which is by category, it's just always been at the very tail end of the meeting, and there are a lot of people who don't get to hear about it. And I think those are the arguments that are compelling to put it up after the STR articles so that more people can hear about it and we can give a more thorough assessment and indication to the legislators.
Okay. Well, I will take that under advisement. So your motion, which by the way, not just a complete thought that I had intended to mention at the beginning. Should I, with a 17 article warrant, do you all think that we should call the articles and figure out which ones aren't going to be of interest and dispose of them at the beginning, or should I dispense with that because it takes a little bit of time and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc.? Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
I think you should dispense with the ones that nobody wants to talk about.
So call the articles the way we always do, vote on the ones that aren't called, and then go forward from there. Okay. All right.
Sarah, this is Leah. Just a quickie. So many of the articles have citizen sponsors. It's highly likely that 14 to 17 of the 17 will be called.
That's what I think too. But I guess I can find that out.
It won't take long.
It won't take long. I can read 17 twice pretty darn quickly. So, and I already know for sure that we're going to be talking about, let's see, 1, 2, 4, 5. And probably, Mr. Maury, are you going to call all 4 of your articles, 11 through 14?
Sorry, I was muted. I'll be
That's okay.
calling 2, and I think Cliff Williams will be calling the 2 related to the property he owns.
Okay, so that would be 11, 12, 13, and 14?
Yes.
Okay, and then we know 16. So the ones that are kind of up in the air are 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, and 17. And 8 has a positive motion, as does 10. So I'm hoping that people will just maybe let those go. We don't necessarily need to talk to them about them if everyone agrees, but I guess we'll see.
Sarah, Charity's had her hand up for a bit.
Oh, okay. Ms. Benz?
No, I just wanted to say that you were asking a question a little while back about whether you want people to refer to the warrant or what's on the screen. And in our case, we would very much like, we must have our revised article up on the screen. And my other question is, do you want to have the red line version as well as the what we're calling the new 2?
Well, all right, so let's talk about that. Which would you prefer to have up there, and which do you think is going to be the most helpful? I'm kind of leaning towards thinking a red line is more helpful, because then people who are looking at it for the first time can see how it's different from what's in the warrant.
Well, we can do either one. We are going to hand out probably the red line, you know, on one side of the paper will be the new article or the revised article, and then on the back will be the red line. But
all right, well, I think that, Jeremy, we should be able to deal with like 2 versions, right? A red line and a clean, and toggle between the 2 if necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay.
we're not going to have any visuals other than those.
Okay, so then please send me, because I don't know, do I have the red line? I don't know what I have at this point. So
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
yeah, if you could send me both in an email. Ask Grant to do the same. I know he's on the road, so he may not be with us right now. And anyone else. Okay, and I know Hillary, you're going to send me yours. So, and there's no redlining there. Okay. So what was I saying? I can't remember what we were talking about because I got off on this tangent, but I think after I call all these articles and we figure out what's been called and what hasn't, that would be the appropriate time for Ms. Rayport to make her motion to move Article 16 after whatever of these articles she wants it to be, whether it's 5 or 7. And I will think about it and figure out if it's going to be a majority or a 2/3. So I guess just one caution on time limits. Because we have such limited time, I am going to try very hard to stick to 5 minutes for the introduction of the article, 5 minutes for an opposition viewpoint, then 2 minutes, and then if you're speaking for a second time, 1 minute. So if you're practicing at home what you're saying, try to keep it within those timelines. Anything more than 5 minutes, people lose their attention span anyway.
Sarah, I don't know whether anybody would listen but the occasional admonishment. We want to hear from you. We want your name in the record. But if you're repeating something that's been said already, please just tell us that. And then you'll be in the record and we can move forward.
Right. Okay.
May I ask one question, Sarah, please?
Certainly.
It's Charity. Could you just repeat that 5 minutes for the proponent and then 2 minutes for speakers? And what was the 1 minute after that?
Well, so if you speak for your 2 minutes and then you want to speak again, you don't get another 2, you get 1.
All right, good. Okay. No problem.
And if you've spoken for 5 minutes, you also get 1.
Okay, thank you.
In other words, you don't get 5, 2, and 1. You get 5 and 1 or 2 and 1. You know, unless something really dramatic happens. Okay, does anyone have anything else? Any questions or any suggestions or comments or? We don't have any of the sort of festivities at the beginning of the meeting, so we're going to be diving right in at 5 o'clock.
I have one question.
Sure.
Are the adjacent satellite locations, are they all taken care of in terms of everybody being aware of what's going on? I mean, there was some confusion last May, I guess it was. And for example, I think people had to come from the gymnasium to the auditorium to speak. And how is it going to happen in a satellite location that's a building away?
It's actually all in the same building, I believe, but that gym is a fair hike. So Nancy or Laura, do you want to address that?
Well, you know what, maybe, yes, we can. It's going to be a little different this time, and maybe Laura could explain that because she's worked hard on it.
Yeah, so we're working with Emergency Productions. They've been an excellent partner with us for sound and audiovisual, and we're not unique in having multiple rooms for a town meeting. It is not unique to us. So the 3 locations, each location will have microphones where voters can address the meeting. We each will have screens that will have the article that's being discussed. The auditorium will have a person in person appear on that screen. So if someone in one of the other meeting spaces is speaking to the meeting, you will see them. And then vice versa. In the other spaces, they'll have a screen with the article, as well as, I believe, a separate screen perhaps with the folks in the auditorium that are speaking.
Laura, this is Lee. We did have a Zoom meeting a couple of days ago about this, and I just want to repeat the suggestion that the moderator, who's Miss Alger, will have screens in front of her that picture the microphones in the other rooms. And so, Sarah, if you could, in order, call on successively each room as you see fit, so that the people in the rooms get the real notion that they need to be quiet and pay attention because they're on microphone.
Well,
right.
Well, that they're part of the meeting. I mean, just
Right.
in another room, they need to know that they're an equal partner in here.
Right.
And if I could just add to what everyone said, Sarah, so the idea of what Laura was explaining is that everybody will have, of course, we all want to be in the same room. It's just not possible, but everybody will hopefully have an equal experience. But perhaps it should be explained to people at the beginning that this is new to us. This is the first time we will have had the pick and pick, that you can see who's speaking in the other rooms. and the people in the auditorium will have a small insert to see the speaker from the other room. And there were also, you know, as you well know, complaints that people were talking loudly amongst themselves in the auditorium. Not that I mean, in the gymnasium, excuse me. Not that that's against the law, but it was hard for other people to hear the action. So perhaps we could ask folks to be considerate of everybody, listen to what's happening at the front, and
If they want to visit, they should step out.
if I could just throw out there, Sarah, before I forget to say it, the tech crew has asked if you could perhaps come an hour before the start of the meeting to just, not necessarily the other moderators, but just you, to see the screens you're going to see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will do that.
So, Sarah, this is actually kind of a personal question, but it still pertains to the meeting. I've been asked to chair one of the other rooms, and I was referred to as moderator in the gymnasium. Strictly speaking, moderators may not vote and may not speak, but you're the moderator of the whole caboodle. Will the two of us who are, I refer to ourselves as monitors, will we be able to speak and vote?
Well, you definitely can vote. I always vote.
Oh, General Roberts says that the moderator doesn't vote unless there's a tie.
Well, we don't operate under Roberts, though, do we?
I know, it's town meeting rules.
Yeah. So I always vote, and
I've
always
also
vote.
always voted from the gym as well.
Yeah, I mean, I always vote, and my reason for doing that is so that if there ever was a tie, I could just say, "Well, I've already voted." Because I'm such a courageous person. Okay. So
what
yes.
about for Chantal and me being able to speak?
Being able to speak. Well, that gets a little problematic because someone would have to be taking over for you while you were speaking. And who would that person be?
That's a good question.
So I guess for the moment, I would say no on the speaking, yes on the voting.
Okay. I'll put my hand down. Oh, it is down.
Yeah. Chantal, your hand is up.
Never, I was just going to say exactly what you said. In the past, when I've been in the gym, there's nobody to step in for me. So I just don't, I keep my opinions to myself and I vote, and that is it.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
I think that's probably the right way to go.
Sarah, can I just mention
if either
something?
one, sure.
Oh, I just wanted to let the moderator or monitors, however we're defining them, know that they will have a microphone. Their microphone will be for their space to address their particular group of the meeting. It won't be linked to other rooms. It will be specific to their room.
Okay. So
Laura, does that mean that we will not be able to pass a closed individual message to Sarah as moderator of the whole caboodle?
You can, just not through a microphone. You can use your text. If you need, I have workers that will be in all spaces. If you can't text Sarah or Sarah's assistant, we can have someone, run to the auditorium to
It's
relay a
unlikely,
message.
but it's useful to know.
Well, you can always also go up to the mic that would be connected.
Right. And
To
so
Sarah.
everybody would hear, so one has to be careful how to choose one's words.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think Chantal and Lee, I'm going to count on you two to keep the order in those rooms and make sure that people aren't detracting from the experience of people who are trying to pay attention and know what's going on.
like a church meeting with a long rod to tap people on the shoulder.
That's right.
Hillary has her hand up.
Ms. Report?
Yes, thank you. I just had a quick question about the timing for speakers. So the person introducing the article has 5 minutes, and then there's a 2 minutes, and then the 1 minute for follow-up. Was there another category that had also had 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's something where there's opposition, I want to get as much of that out as I can. So if there's someone who's speaking on the other side, then I would give them 5 minutes as well.
And does that person identify themselves? I mean, speaking as someone who's expecting opposition on my article, does that person identify themselves ahead of time? Is it just one person? How is
It's
that?
just one, it's
Will
just
you
usually
decide?
it's usually one person. In the case of your article, I would guess it would be someone from the MP and EDC, maybe someone from the planning board.
Okay. And then for other articles that have opposition, they would also identify themselves as.
Speaking in opposition, if there's just no clear opposition position, then I wouldn't do the 5 minutes. That's kind of a gray area, to be honest.
Okay.
Sarah,
Yes.
to follow up on what Hillary said, the person in opposition, it could be Article 1, it could be any of them. Are you saying that that person has to be the first person speaking, or they have to be the, have a little 5 minute flag in the hand saying, I'm the 5 minute person? They might not necessarily speak right after. That, I think we need to be clear about that. Because we've never had this conversation that I remember. So
Maybe not, but people seem so focused on who gets to speak and for how long that
that's because this has been going on for a long time, and this is a little bit of a different kind of town meeting, in my opinion, than typical.
Right. I would think, Nat, that the person who's taking that second 5 minutes should be the second speaker.
Okay. I agree with you, by the way. I just want to be clear about.
Yeah, I don't want somebody to talk for 5 minutes and then go to a bunch of people who are talking for 2, and then all of a sudden have
somebody
jump up
else
and go,
say, I'm
I get 5 minutes.
Right.
I don't think that's going to work.
Yep, I agree. Thank you for that.
To the extent that those people can identify who they are, so I know to recognize them, that would be helpful.
Yep. Thank you.
But if it gets to be contentious and people are fighting over the second 5 minutes, then I'm just not going to do it at all.
Okay.
I appreciate knowing about it ahead of time. I just think there's always people speaking in opposition on both sides. So it would be helpful to know, to have it be clear for the room that this is a moment given over to some sort of formally recognized uber oppositional speech.
Right. And just to be clear, I know in the past, and I wasn't good about telling them not to do it. When somebody like John Giorgio is addressing the room, they were putting up a 2 minute timer, and I'm not holding particularly town council, to a 2 minute limit. If town council has something that the meeting needs to know, he's going to get the time that he or she, if Lauren's there or whoever, are going to get the time they need to explain to the meeting, because that's why we pay them to come and talk to the meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I know somebody was complaining that people were talking too long. And anyway, I don't think we have many consultants or many people who are going to have to speak who are in that category. It mostly is town council, I think. I don't think I see any other hands. Is there anything else that we should? I think this has been super helpful. It's been really helpful for me.
Laura and Nancy have their hands raised.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just go first real quick. I know we're just a small group, but I just wanted to add, if people can spread the word, and I know that you may all know this, but and we've put it on our, you know, our social media folks have put it out for us, but there's only so many devices assigned and able per space. So there can be no saving seats. We're really trying to get that out to groups of friends and husbands and wives. And if you want to sit together, you want to be guaranteed to sit together, you really have to arrive together. Other than that, it has to be first come, first serve. You know, we're going to have a section put aside like we always do for, you know, the planning board and such folks as that work for the town. And we're going to have a section for anybody disabled. And other than that, it's, you know, first come, first serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Laura?
That was my point.
Okay, good.
It's really important that
Great
people
point.
understand. It was a very divisive thing at check-in. People had a really hard time with that because they're so used to the way it used to be. But we've had these devices now for quite some time, and we need to understand that we like the devices. We have to a little bit change our ways a bit, and that change of ways would be checking in and checking in together. So hopefully we get the message out to people.
Right. And we're going to fill up the auditorium first, right? And then go to the high school gym.
Yes.
And the CPS gym is the backup gym.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Laura and Nancy, could you perhaps separately let Chantal and me know where we're supposed to be?
Sarah, do
Yeah,
you
I think,
any preference?
I think Chantal's been in the gym, in the high school gym. So why don't we leave her there, and Lee, we'll put you in the CPS gym. And then if we don't need it, it frees you up to speak to your heart's content.
No, 2 minutes.
Well, that's right. To your 2 minutes heart content.
I'm sorry, that made me think of one other thing that I should add just for folks' information. If after a certain article, you know, say we're just in 2 spaces, we're just in the auditorium, obviously in the high school gym, and after a certain article, we have a mass exodus and there's only 50 people left in the gym, they can't come into the auditorium because their devices are not going to work. So they have to,
right.
You have to stay where you're at, you know.
Right. Got it. Okay. I mean, I think we've got our work cut out for us in the time that we have allotted to us on the 17th. So we're going to have to be efficient and quick, non-repetitive, polite, kind, and to the point. I don't know anyone like that, but we can aspire.
And everybody has to know what ad hominem means.
Okay. Yes, we won't have any of that. Although, quite honestly, that decision, was it Stoughton or Sturbridge? It was one of those places. Kind of shot a lot of holes in the old "let's be nice to each other" department.
Southborough, Sarah.
Oh, Southborough. Okay, I knew it began with an S.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so John, just to remind everyone, the Southborough rules basically say that First Amendment trumps civility, essentially.
Yeah, and that was a select board meeting. It was not town meeting, so there's some debate as to whether or not it would apply at town meeting, but my advice is to moderators that they apply that same principle, which is essentially that you as the moderator, can make rules to ensure that the debate is peaceable and orderly. Orderly means that people cannot interrupt one another. They can't speak unless recognized by the moderator. Peaceable means they can't stand up in the crowded town meeting and shout, "You all better get out of here because I have a gun," that kind of thing. That would be a problem for many other reasons too, but we don't have to go into that. But you can certainly restrain behavior that's not peaceable. So that's basically the standard.
Right.
If they say something mean about town council, I just have to sit there and take it, and people have a right to say whatever they want about any public official, even if it hurts our feelings.
Right. Okay. I think I need to maybe give people a little primer on that at the beginning, because I was hearing a little bit of chatter that I hadn't really shut people down the way I had in the past. And the reason for that is this Southborough case, because I'm very aware of it and trying to kind of walk that fine line. So I think people are able to say a little bit more than they used to, whether we like it or not. So, okay. Anything
Sarah,
else?
if I may,
Yes.
Sarah, the only thing
Yes.
about making an announcement to that effect, let's not give anybody any ideas.
No, I know. I know. It's true. I'm trying to be a little self-protective, because I know there were people who were really mad at me that I allowed certain things to be said at the last meeting, and I allowed them to be said specifically because they were, while they might have been unpleasant and probably not in accordance with how I would have run the meeting prior to the Southborough case, they were orderly and
Peaceable.
so and peaceable. So I let them go.
Yep.
And that it's difficult. It's difficult for me, and I know it's difficult for people in the room. So it would be really nice if everyone would just stick to the subject matter and leave the ad hominem attacks, to use Lee's Latin, out of the picture. Okay. Well, thank you. Tuesday's looking like it's going to be a lot of fun. Hydrate, hydrate, rest up, and be there promptly be there before 5, because we're going to have quite a big check-in procedure. So, and I would really like to start as close to 5 as possible. And I really can't, with this meeting, I really can't start until everyone's in their seats.
Check-in will be open at 4 for folks. So just so you know.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. See you all then.
See you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Everyone.